Well, good afternoon, listeners. Thanks for listening to Lament of Hope podcast. Thank you all for your grace this past week, as I didn't post anything on Tuesday. I was at a work convention, and that's what I want to talk about today. It's gonna be a super short episode, but it was just such a random experience, and honestly I'm still processing it, and it's been rough. But so many of you probably saw the Facebook story, some Instagram posts that I posted, but that I wouldn't be posting anything. And honestly, like, whatever you guys get out of this, I'm still thinking it through. I've been wrestling with the Lord on it a lot, just because I don't really know. Maybe, and for some people this may seem like really melodramatic, but for me it's a big deal, so I'm gonna say it. It's my podcast as is. But anyway, so I've been preparing for months to go on a convention trip for work, and I'd been working really hard, been pouring a lot of effort in, making sure things were ready, making sure whatever I had to do was set. And Sunday, I left for the convention, and I woke up and I had like neck pain and stuff, but I was like, it's stress. I wasn't even, I'm just not gonna focus on it. I've got to get there. And I had been working so hard with my counselor and just with, my support team of like, you can do this, you can do a trip, you're going to do great. This would be my first trip away from my husband. We've been married for a couple years, and usually I do things with him, but this would be my first time like going on a long trip away by myself. And so I was gearing up, and praying about it and just pouring into being strong for this event. Because I wanted to do well. I wanted to do my best. I wanted to enjoy the time. So anyway, I fly in to the convention. At this point, my head really hurts, but I'm just like, it's all stress, stress. And so by the time we get to the end of the day, about dinner time, I'm like at an 8.5 with pain. And so I'm like, maybe I need to go somewhere. So urgent cares were closed. So I went to the ER. And they, ran their tests. They did a CT scan. They did, the blood test and everything. I'm getting nervous because, I'm in a hospital far from home, but also I'm in a lot of pain. And they then tell me, hey, I guess we think you're getting a migraine. And I said, well, I've never had a migraine before. And they're like, yeah, well, maybe it's just, migraine's going to happen. So they treat me for a migraine because everything looks good. No white blood cell count high, like fighting an infection or anything, nothing in my brain, no tumor. And so they give me a migraine cocktail. Well, we don't know I'm allergic to something in it. So they give it to me, and I'm actually allergic to one of the medicines that's in the cocktail. And within minutes of taking this, I immediately go into one of the worst panic attacks I've ever had. I've had some severe panic attacks in my lifetime. And I have not had one like this in a couple years because I've been doing so well with mental health wise, like much, much better. But this was a medically induced panic attack, and I'll tell you, there's nothing like it because this is just something your body is like doing. Okay, you can try to calm down and everything, but it just can't. So I'm freaking out. I am pacing in the hospital room. I don't know what's happening to me. I feel like I want to crawl out of my skin. I feel like I can't sit still, super tingly everywhere. My heart is beating super fast. And then I find out that I'm allergic to one of the medications, and that's a side effect. And I am freaking out. And it's really rough. And I'm in the ER for 8 hours. I would have only been there for a couple because the headache definitely went away, but the panic attack didn't. And so my heart rate kept racing up, up, up. It would jump like just for hours. And finally, in like 3:45 in the morning, I was like, "Can I go home now?" You know, my head feels better. Obviously, my heart's still jumpy. I just want to go to my hotel room, please. Say they let me go. I'm struggling with God on this, okay? Because I'm like, Lord, I had prepared, I had prayed, I had really thought that if I trusted you on this one, it was going to be okay. And I have health anxiety. I always have fears that I'm gonna have to go to the hospital. I'm gonna be that 1% that something terrible happens to. And I've been working on that for so many years. And so I was just so, I was like, what is going on? And in the meantime, my husband had been on the phone with me for 2 hours. He was just listening to everything the doctors are saying, making sure he felt awful. Obviously, he wanted to be there, couldn't be there. Um, well, I get to my hotel room about 4 a.m. Sleep a few hours, and then wake up, go down to where my shift is going to be for the day, and I have a full-blown panic attack. Again. Um, in front of my coworkers, in front of people I respect, and it was very embarrassing. And I kept thinking, I felt so helpless, you know? And so my coworker was so sweet. She brought me up to her room. She sat with me for like an hour and a half, trying to calm me down, giving me mint teas and all this, and I was explaining to her what had happened to the hospital. And I was so broken up because I felt like I was going back, to the days where I was not doing well mentally, where everything was falling apart. And I had just felt so confident that I was like, this is going to be good. Like, God's going to prove to me that I can do this, that my fears are not warranted, that I am much better, all of this. But all of these things happen out of my control, right? And then I find myself helpless and feeling helpless and powerless. There were definitely people there. And I want to tell you, in the hospital, there were some nurses who were incredible people. If they listen to this, they know who they are. Amazing, kind people. And then there were others who weren't great. So another thing, always when you're in the hospital, advocate for yourself, because a lot of times they're like, you're not actually, you're not thinking this. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm telling you the truth. And it's very hard to advocate for yourself when you're having a panic attack. I did, and that is God's grace, because I wouldn't have a couple years ago. I would have just done whatever they wanted me to do. But anyway, so then I get, I'm going to push through. I still am not going home. I'm not asking anyone to go home. I'm going to push through. Well, someone higher up in the team is like, I think you need to go home. So I get permission to go home. They want me to go home. And I'm like, okay, well, if they want me to go home, I'm not forcing the issue. I'm going. God wants me to go home. Well, I get to the terminal the next day, okay? And I have a panic attack at the terminal. It has been so long since I have had that many panic attacks in a row of that intensity. Well, I go up to the stewardess and I say, hey, before I get on the plane, I'm just letting you know I'm having a panic attack. Nothing's wrong with me, but just in case you see me freaking out, that's the case. Well, she did freak out, kind of, and paramedics came. Everyone kind of comes to the terminal, check on me. My heart rate's up in the 130s, 140s, because I'm anxious. I'm crying. I'm just saying, I want to go home. My husband's home. I just want to go home. Please let me go home. And I understand the airline is like, sorry, we can't let you on the plane because if something does happen, we would have to turn around and that's going to cost us millions of dollars. And we have all these people that need to go where they need to go and we don't want to reroute them. And I understood that. But I was also really sad because I knew it was happening, but they didn't know my history, my medical history. They didn't know anything about me. So they have to go by what they have to do, right? So I find out that I need to get a doctor's note in order to come back and board the airplane. So I'm crying. I am so sad. My husband's on the phone with me. He's upset. Everything's just, crackling down. And I'm like, God, why is this happening to me? You know, I have worked so hard to never come back here. I didn't want to come back here in this place. I didn't want to have these kind of panic attacks anymore. I thought was over this. And I literally just start walking away from the terminal. I go downstairs to where baggage claim is because they tell me they got my bag off the plane before it left. And I just see this old woman in the volunteer booth section of the flight. And I just go up to her and I say, I don't know who you are, but I'm lost. I'm alone. I'm having a panic attack and I want to go home. And I'm here for a conference and I need to get back home. I don't know what to do. Like, I literally was crying. That's what I said. I didn't have anything, okay? I didn't care at this point. I was just undone. And this lady takes my hand and she goes, tell me, what's going on? Tell me everything. So I do. She then goes and gets my bag for me. She then goes to the supervisor and advocates for me to leave. She shows them the discharge papers that I had kept because, guys, I never keep my discharge papers in the hospital. I just don't. Because, it always says home care. It's not like there's actually anything on there I need. Well, this time I didn't. It was still in my purse. And she showed them the discharge papers and they said, okay, you can leave on the next flight, which is in a couple hours. And then the lady is like, why don't you take your medicine? I know you only say you take it once a day now. We'll take it twice. Nothing bad. Just do it. So I did. She then goes, can I take you home with me? I'm 82. I have a borderline collie who will sit with you. He's a rescue. He's super sweet. I'll make you lunch. You will take a nap and we will come back. I live 8 minutes from the airport. I'm like, sure. My husband's on the phone with her. He's like, thank you so much. So I get there and she's telling me all these fascinating stories. Like, she's always wanted to be a mom, never got to be a mom. And she's like, you're my granddaughter now. I love you. I'm claiming you. She makes me eat and she lets me lie down in her porch outside in the sun and just gives me a blanket. And her collie sits there with me. And a couple hours later, we're in the terminal. She's waiting for me. She waits until I am in the plane before she leaves the airport. And I make it home. And I see my husband. And I go out there and I'm just hugging him. Because I can't believe I'm there. It was like a fever dream. And since then, I've been helping my workout remotely where I can, which really has been nothing. Because, everyone's in present. And on top of it, right after the convention, was going to use some days to visit a friend whose kid just came out of the NICU. And I wanted to be there as a support for her. And I wanted to, be able to do this stuff. And the Lord, just shut those doors. And I think and I know when I get with my counselor, it's all going to be about talking about the path waves and the way you think about stuff. And I just want to encourage you guys, like, that is true. And I'm going to need to probably rewire this whole experience because it was a lot of PTSD for me from the last time I've had hospital visits and not being treated as well as I should have, or bad things happening, and you got to reroute that brain so that it doesn't keep going back there. I think the hard thing for me is I don't know why all of this happened. And I've asked God about it, but I also know that God doesn't tell you all the time. He doesn't say, hey, this is why this happened to you. Honestly, I've been kind of gripping myself that another shoe's going to drop any minute. So I've been in that kind of mode for a second. My migraine also has continued to come back and forth, the side of my face up here. So I've still been struggling with the migraine, but that's not surprising to me because it's been a very stressful week. And I'm sad. And I think I want the Lord to use this. I want the Lord to use this to help me see him better and to not see this as a failure. But I just want to say that, just because you're a Christian, just because you believe in God, just because you have given your life to him, just because you're walking with him, does not mean that you do not have these episodes of not getting it and being upset and wondering why. And that's my story. It's crazy. There's a lot of other details there. I'm not going to bore you with the whole thing. But it was the worst 3 days of my life in a while. And it has definitely been humbling. It's been hard. And for those of you who are believers, I would ask that you pray for me, that the Lord would help me through this time, that I would be healed from a migraine that hasn't really gone away. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got. And I hope you guys, are encouraged that you're not alone if something hard is happening and you don't get it. And if not a Christian, I hope you will see that believers are fallen people with tons of problems, and we are not perfect. And our brains need to be rewired too, which is why the gospel says that you renew your mind day by day. But yeah, so that is a lament. And I was like, how fitting to put this on the podcast. So I'm giving it to you here. I'm going to be putting out episodes again next week, Lord willing. Lord willing. And we're going to start up our routine again. I got some amazing guests for you that I didn't put out yet that I'm super excited for you to see because they were amazing conversations. But I wanted to come on here and be real with you guys and tell you about this week, and maybe you guys can see some encouragement in it. They can let me know. I love seeing your comments. But yeah, it was rough. It's really, really rough. See you guys Tuesday.